Okay, we've got to chapter 17 of How to Be a Pirate. How bad could this day get? And I'm getting a feeling it could get pretty bad. Okay. The ceiling was definitely nearer to their heads than it had been a few minutes before. It was now just a few inches above the horns on Hiccup's helmet. I would hate to be in that situation. There was silence for a second. Alvin's mad eyes swam back into focus again. The only thing that mattered more to him than the treasure was the preservation of his own life. Hiccup found everyday life rather a trial, but he was always good in a crisis. Right, he said. Toothless, I want you to swim out from underneath this boat and see whether you think we're too far to swim. Now, he added as Toothless seemed to be taking his time about it. Okay, grumbled Toothless. Keep your horns on. The little dragon dived underneath the water and disappeared. He left the Vikings in nearly total darkness, for without the friendly light of his glowing eyes, it was almost impossible to see. There was an eerie silence, apart from the lapping of the water against the sides of the boat and a faint rushing noise, which Hiccup was sure was the sound of the air leaving the air pocket like a leaking balloon. And indeed, after 5 minutes, the air pocket had reduced so much that Hiccup's head was squashed against the wooden ceiling of the Lucky 13. Oh, I would hate this so much. And he had to remove his helmet. Alvin was panicking. Where is the wretched reptile? He hissed, and then choked as water sloshed into his mouth. I noticed he's lost his smile at Alvin. That wretched reptile, scolded Fishlegs. Fishlegs, as terrified as Alvin, but bravely trying not to show it, is trying to save your wretched life. 5 minutes more, and they had to turn their heads in order to keep their nostrils clear of the water. If Toothless takes any longer, thought Hiccup, we're going to drown here in this blackness. 2 lights flickered in the dark below him. It was Toothless, swimming up towards them in the nick of time. Okay, said Toothless. Surface too far away for humans, but there's a cave thingy. Follow Toothless. Just hang on to me, Fishlegs, and kick like crazy, ordered Hiccup, because of course Fishlegs could not swim. Hiccup took a huge breath just before the sea swallowed up the last remains of that air pocket and dived after Toothless. He had to swim underneath the rim of the boat, which was resting on some large rocks on the bottom. He swam out into total darkness, which was very confusing. A little way above him, he could see that Toothless was swimming towards a small hole in the cliff with light shining out of it. Trying to ignore the panicky feeling of his breath running out and hampered by Fishlegs gripping onto one leg, he swam as fast as he could towards the hole. Once he had swum into it, he shot upwards through a short tunnel and surfaced in a huge pool of water at the bottom of a gigantic underground cavern, gasping for air. Thank goodness, so at least they're in a slightly better situation, I hope. A second or so later, Alvin emerged to lie in the water beside Hiccup and Fishlegs. The cavern was huge and surprisingly light, considering it was so far underground. The eerie green light seemed to be given off by electric squirms, a tiny dragon-like creature that glows with phosphorescence. Water rushed down the walls and dripped from the ceiling. Hiccup was so relieved to be still alive and in the air again that this tomb of a cavern initially seemed like home. It was a while before his scared brain could focus on the fact that they weren't safe yet. Right, said Fishlegs, trying not to panic and wringing out his breeches and flapping his arms to get dry. How are we going to get out of here? The cavern had some interesting rock formations, if Hiccup had been in the mood for admiring them. The weird shapes of fossilized dragons were caught in the stone. Some of them were very unusual, extinct species. However, even the discovery of an entire skeleton of the rather burrowing Slitherfang, so rare that it was often thought never to have existed, so Hiccup would have been interested in that one, failed to excite Hiccup as he might have done in other circumstances. They walked round and round in circles for about an hour and a half, looking for a way out before realising there wasn't one. They sat down. Without his tribe around him and facing death, Alvin seemed to have returned to his old pleasant self again. He even apologised for getting them into this mess. I just cannot believe this, moaned Fishlegs, shivering violently. It's like some sort of nightmare. I keep thinking we're safe, and then it seems that no, we're in some other life-threatening situation, even worse than the one we've just got away from. Okay, admitted Hiccup, trying to keep them from despairing. It doesn't look good, but I'm sure I can think of a way out of here. Toothless was sniffing away at the back of the cabin, and he interrupted, calling out, Toothless, can I smell something metal over here? Very clever, Toothless, said Hiccup, but the treasure hunt is over now. I mean, continued Fishlegs, so far today we have narrowly escaped from being 1, torn to pieces by scullions, 2, eaten by cannibal outcasts, 3, burned to death on board ship, 4, drowned at the bottom of the ocean, and now here we are trapped in an inaccessible underground cavern facing death by slow starvation. I mean, it's just been a really bad day. No, not metal after all, Toothless called back in disappointment. It's just a door. A door? Alvin, Hiccup and Fishlegs scrambled up and over towards Toothless with a sudden surge of hope. Once they'd scrabbled away at all the dust and earth covering it, they found it was a door. It was surprising they hadn't noticed it before. Is it a way out? Gasped Fishlegs. Not necessarily, gasped Hiccup replied slowly. A door with a death's head painted on it. A door with lettering on it that was horribly familiar to Hiccup. Large scrawling letters gouged out of the surface of the wood, probably with a sword. Do not open this door, it said, unless you are the true heir to Grimbeard the Ghastly. I really mean it this time, it said. Death and destruction and other truly awful things will follow. If you open this door, this is a pirate's personal, private property. Hiccup looked straight into the suddenly glittering eyes of Alvin the Treacherous. All the pleasantness had fallen away from him again. He raised his arm with the storm blade fixed into it. Alvin didn't need to say anything. Hiccup knew what he wanted. Oh, no, said Hiccup, backing slowly away. I'm not going to open this door. Oh, but you are, smiled Alvin the Treacherous, resting the foot of the storm blade right in the middle of Hiccup's chest. But I'm not the heir to Grimbeard the Ghastly, Hiccup protested. Snotlout is the heir. He's the one who found the treasure. Remember the riddle? Ah, but was that the real treasure that Snotlout found? Asked Alvin. Perhaps Grimbeard put it there as a decoy to make people think they'd found the real treasure when all along it was lying here. What better hiding place than a cavern accessible only by water? Well, if that wasn't the real treasure, then that means Snotlout isn't necessarily the true heir to the Hairy Hooligans. Well, that's a relief in any case, said Fishlegs, trying to lighten the tension. You are the true heir, said Alvin quietly. When I asked in the Lucky 13 who was the heir to the Hairy Hooligans, who stood up? You did. Not Snotlout. This has all been a test set by Grimbeard the Ghastly and Fate herself. Only now does the riddle make sense, for what have we just escaped from but a watery grave? And whose beast has just sniffed out this door? Your beast. See? Said Toothless. Toothless is better, sniffer the Varworm. You are the true heir to the Hairy Hooligans, Hiccup, said Alvin, and so only you can open this door and live. You are the heir to the Hairy Hooligans. That's him pointing his Stormblade at Hiccup. But I don't want to open this door, said Hiccup. If you give me enough time, I'm sure I can get us out of here without opening it. What about the booby traps? You open Grimbeard's coffin and you lose your right hand. We open Grimbeard's treasure chest and it triggers a smell that wakes up the scullions. I know that if we open this door, something really unpleasant is going to happen. Sure as fish eggs are fish eggs, and the surprises are getting worse, if anything. I forgot to mention, said Alvin sulkily, if you don't open the door, you die. He pressed the Stormblade forward a bit, so it just pierced the skin just above Hiccup's heart. Let me get this straight, said Hiccup. When I do open this door, you won't kill me or my friends. I promise, said Alvin. Word of a treacherous. Word of a treacherous, groaned Fishlegs. It says it all, really. He'll kill us as soon as he has the treasure, if there is any treasure behind that door. But otherwise, he's going to kill us now, said Hiccup. Pointed out, I haven't got a lot of choice. Hiccup leaned forward, biting his lip, and slid the heavy iron bolt to the left. Not a good idea, not a good idea, not a good idea, repeated Fishlegs and Toothless to themselves, closing their eyes. Hiccup slowly opened the door. Creak. Look, it really does tell you. Look, it says, do not open this door. Do not, unless you are the true heir to Grimbeard the Ghastly. I really mean it this time. Death and destruction and other truly awful things will follow if you open this door. I mean, how much clearer could it be? Anyway, I'll read the second half of the chapter tomorrow and we'll find out what happens when they open that door.